The officer that was terminated here, she told a great story how she was an addict, and based on how he helped her and got her treatment, she's now clean 3 years. Part of the reason we're making such a big deal about this is some of their metric of you're a good police officer is how many tickets you write, how many arrests. Obviously, a good police officer helps somebody to recover, so that's really cool that she's coming to talk about this. WOSU?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hi.
I just told them we're coming.
It's fine. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Turn that off.
Yeah, it's off.
Did you be able to? You did. You already moved it. We're already on top of it. Thank you.
To button or not button?
Sorry, we're gonna have to do
one?
one more.
Okay.
We had a mood swing last minute.
They haven't started yet, so I'm gonna cut through.
Oh no, you're fine. Oh, this is agitating. Okay, now we're cooking. Hey, thank you.
Again, do we button or we don't button?
Oh,
What do you think? Doesn't matter?
Whatever.
Yeah. Someone told me button's not the style anymore, but this pistol makes my hip and ass look big.
I always like a good button down.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Great. Did you want to start with something, or did you want to?
Yeah, so I'll start with my typical intro, right? My name is Brian Steele, Brian Steel. I'm the president of Capital City Lodge number 9. I got a phone call this afternoon, a phone call, unfortunately, I get a couple times a year. It says our officer involved in a critical incident. What was different with this incident occurred in the city of Milwaukee. As you know, approximately 40 officers from the Columbus Division of Police, our FOP members, went up to Milwaukee to provide support at the request of Milwaukee Police for the RNC. This is not uncommon. Columbus Police, Cincinnati Police, police from all over the country often will get called to events as this. I do not know the facts of this case. That is going to come out in investigation. It's not being investigated locally. It's being investigated in Wisconsin. I could talk a little details. I know multiple officers discharged their weapon. I know that these officers are trained officers. They are trained to police, whether it's in Milwaukee or Columbus. They're trained to recognize a threat. They're trained to stop a threat. And that's what they did. There's witness reports coming out that the individual had 2 steak knives. He was swinging that knives at an individual and or the officers. The officers, no matter where they are in the country, they are trained to protect themselves and protect the lives of others. Again, we support our officers. We had preventions in place. We contacted, before they went up there, FOP attorneys and said, this is the deal. Our members are going up there. Will you provide legal protection for them? And they said yes. We would do the exact same thing if someone came down here. I'll answer my questions to the best of my ability.
Were the officers on or off duty?
The officers were on duty. So how it worked, they were a bike officer. There's officers assigned to the actual RNC, and then the area around the RNC was broken down into sectors or zones. These officers were providing bicycle patrol, doing routine policing in support of the RNC and a certain zone. Yesterday, there's a park in this zone. Yesterday, there was a pop-up protest, so the officers were there monitoring the protest. Today, they were riding with Madison, Wisconsin officers in teams patrolling this area around the park. They did some routine police work. There was my understanding they had a walk up about some kind of domestic violence incident before. They had a walk up about some kind of threat report, someone waving them down, officer, can you help me? At some point during their patrols, they encountered either a fight or a person with a mental illness with a weapon.
Stephanie Dupre with ABC 6 News here,
Yes.
sir. So can you confirm, was it CPD officers who discharged their weapon, or you don't know that at this time? And were those officers dialogue CPD officers?
I know multiple CPD officers discharged their weapon. I do not know if they were dialogue. I do know that they were bike officers, but whether they were dual roles, that I do not know.
Now you said this type of agreement where, officers go into another city to support a major event, it's not uncommon. What would a typical agreement between police departments in different cities kind of look like that they would have signed up to do?
Sure, there'll be a state compact act. For example, a state compact agreement. We've done this, for example, when 9/11 happened. There was officers from all over the country that went to New York City. when the inauguration happens for the president, we sent 100 CPD officers down there and officers around the country. There'll be an agreement as if who pays for this, what kind of policies and procedures you're going to have. Let's say a civil suit comes out of this, who would be responsible? The city of Columbus, the city of Milwaukee. These are all agreements that attorneys from both states would work together. There is a written agreement. I do not have that agreement on me now, but I will share that with all of you, as will the division, I'm assuming.
Where's Columbus Police? Have you talked to them? Are they coming out? What's the deal with them?
Is the Columbus Division of Police Public Information Officer coming out?
I'm asking you, are they coming out? Obviously the chief isn't here, the Kuko isn't here, Watson isn't here. What are they doing?
So I do not know. I do not know what the division's going to say. I'm obviously the president of the police union. One of our members or multiple members were involved in a critical incident. As all critical incidents, I always come out, try to be as transparent as possible from the union side and tell you what I know.
We heard reports of 5 officers firing shots. Can you speak to if that number's accurate?
I don't have an exact number yet. I just know multiple officers.
Do you know if officers tried any?
I know. Can we do
Yeah, well,
mind if we step forward a little
You got
bit?
hair like this. You get me under there.
Yeah, that's better.
You're gonna think I'm sweating now.
I know.
Do you know if any officers are going to be at the Democratic convention?
So I do not know if Chicago police requested us. If they did request us, there's no reason why we would not go that I know of. I mean, this might change and I'm not sure, but yeah, it's not uncommon for both conventions or inaugurations to request us and not uncommon for us to go.
Are you bringing those officers? Are you bringing them back from the convention early, or how's that work?
I believe the officers that fired their weapons, I can assure you they will be coming back. The rest of
Soon, not the end of the
as soon as the investigation allows them to. They obviously, when there's an investigation, a large scope investigation, they have statements to make. There's certain procedures you have to follow. When that's done, they will come back. The officers that did not fire, I will defer to Division of Police. But if you're asking me, they're probably going to fulfill their mission and finish out the week.
And he said 40 total. When?
There was 40 total from the Columbus Division of Police.
Who will be doing the investigation? Obviously, it won't be PCI, right?
Different agencies work different. It's my understanding the Milwaukee Police, when there is an officer-involved shooting, it follows the Milwaukee Police policy, which is kind of this regional team of city police, some suburb police, some county police. Their policy, to my understanding, after speaking to my counterpart in Milwaukee, is they have a regional team that will investigate this.
Would officers try anything else besides guns, like the de-escalation, tasers? And obviously, I'm assuming they give the order to drop their weapon, all that, the whole nine. Did they try anything else?
So I can't tell you what exactly they did or didn't do. I will tell you that Columbus Division of Police officers are highly trained. We're an accredited department, which means we have literally the gold star standard on training. Our officers are trained to recognize a threat. They're trained to stop the threat. We're trained to de-escalate if we can. We're trained to use a taser if we can. If we have an armed suspect, whether it's a knife or a gun, and you have time on your side, distance on your side, barrier on your side, and lethal force backup, it is appropriate at times to try to deploy a taser. At this time, I cannot tell you for sure if they had those on their side or not.
Do you know if any aid was rendered, or if they would have been required to render aid there as they would be here in Columbus?
I don't know the laws there. I don't know exactly what they did. I would be surprised to learn if they did not render aid. As you know, render aid, when I first came on, was a thing no one really heard of. You stood there and you waited for a medic. If there is one good thing that came out of the reform in 2020 is we now render aid. So I would not be surprised if they at least summons medical help.
And do they have body cams for CPD, or do they go to Milwaukee?
CPD was assigned their body-worn cameras. Who gets that video, whether they get handed the actual device or it gets downloaded, that's all stuff that'll be worked out. There's no doubt about it. Attorneys in Ohio are on the phone right now with attorneys and investigators from Wisconsin trying to work this out.
And saw some reports that he may have been homeless and also shot in the back. Have you heard anything about that?
Read multiple reports. I saw the report that you saw. He was shot in the back. I read reports from New York Post that someone describing as his friend that was there said that he wasn't himself. He referred to himself by Jehovah because that was the voice in his head. And today he was acting like he never saw before. Again, these are reports. Whether the reports side with the officer or do not side with the officer, I don't put much focus in at first. I just know what we know, and that our officers, again, are trained. They're trained to recognize a threat. They're trained to stop the threat. And I think you have to give the officers the benefit of the doubt. You have to give them the benefit of doubt. The officers will go through a lengthy investigation, and at the end of the day, it'll be up to a judge and jury, ultimately, to decide if the officers' actions were in policy or not.
So I know you said multiple, but you can't give out an exact number, but you know it's 5. Are you able to explain why 5 police officers will have to, or multiple, have to open fire on one person?
Sure, and the reason I can't say 5 is nobody confirmed. I've not spoken to a person of authority, a police chief, a mayor, somebody to say, Brian, it was exactly this number. That's why I'm not trying to skirt around it. It's just inappropriate for me to say a number that I can't confirm. Just like those reports of shot in the back or, screaming that somebody was talking in his head. I can't confirm those because I don't know those to be facts. You're asking why do 5 officers shoot? We don't know. Was there 20 officers there and 5 shot, 10 officers there and 1 shot? Again, we will not know until we watch the body-worn camera, until we hear the officer's statements. And if you look at Graham versus Connor, the case law that determines this, what did the officer reasonably believe at the time? And we won't know that right now until this investigation plays through. And Graham versus Connor, of course, is the case law that judges, are we justified or not to use deadly force?
Anything else you'd like to say or mention?
No, just, I talk to this all the time. This is the dangers our officers face. Here you go, you're thinking, you're in a little pair of bike shorts pedaling around Milwaukee. You're thinking, man, that must be a good day to be the police. And then all of a sudden you have an incident with a knife-wielding suspect. It just, again, shows the dangers our officers face every day. I ask that you and your viewers pray for the officers and pray for the family, including the deceased, and of all those impacted by this. Never a good day when we're forced to discharge our weapon, justified or not.
While we have you, do you want to comment on the Ortega?
Sure. So I'm going to speak at City Council tonight. Officer Enrique Ortega, you saw the citizens out here supporting him with the I Support Ortega signs. Officer Ortega was a grievance rep. He was an FOP grievance rep. He was fired for his union-protected activities. You might have seen, well, some of you did my reports. As a grievance rep, he approached the mayor and the administration, and he said, look, we have a ticket quota here. We have an arrest quota. We have retaliatory behavior. We have possible Fourth Amendment violations. He is coming to the administration and saying there is a problem with the leadership of this police department. And what happened, instead of listening to him and at least having an investigation to substantiate that, they simply fired him. So we're down here, we're speaking to the council. Roughly 2 months ago, I asked for a third-party independent investigation. I have not received any answer, and that's why I'm here to, one, support Ortega with the fellow citizens and to go in there and tell the council. What's amazing is, how do you judge a police officer doing his job? The city of Whitehall looks at how many tickets you write, how many reports you take, and how many arrests. One of the ladies here that we was just talking to, citizens supporting him, was a drug addict. She said, I was an addict. Ortega, how he treated me, how he got me on my feet and led me to get help, I am now sober. Well, if you ask me, that's how we judge a police officer, or one of the reasons. And she's in here to testify and let city council know that. And that's outstanding. She's one of dozens of stories, and that's what we're here talking about tonight. Thank you for asking that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. I'll update when I get more. I was telling you guys, when it's local, I'm there, and I could usually tell you more info quicker. It's like this telephone game that we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, we might